In this video, we're going to look at how to solve an inequality, and I'm also going to show you how you can use a calculator function to see if you got the right value. Now, it won't tell you which way to flip the sign, but it will tell you whether or not the value you have is correct. So as we start this problem, the first thing I recommend is go ahead and draw a line through the inequality symbol, and you're going to treat it just like an equal sign. So even though this is an inequality, treat it like if it's an equal sign. The next thing I want you to keep in mind, our goal is to get our variable on the left side of the inequality, and to get our constant value, that's the ones that are written in pink that don't have a variable, on the right side. And that'll just help you keep things separated. The other thing is, remember that just as when we solve an equation we keep things balanced, we need to keep this balanced. So whatever we do to the left side, we have to do to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by getting rid of these parentheses. So anytime you see parentheses on one side of your inequality or equation, go ahead and eliminate that problem first. Now what I want you to keep in mind is that right here, notice it says negative parentheses 7r. This negative sign means that there's an invisible 1 right here in front of the parenthesis. So even though the problem initially doesn't show a 1 there, always know that there's an invisible 1 in front of it if you see a negative sign. So I'll take this invisible 1 in the negative sign, and I'm going to multiply it to what's inside of the parenthesis. In other words, I'm going to have negative 1 times 7r. Now if I multiply that out, negative 1 times 7, it's simply going to change the 7 to a negative value. In other words, it becomes negative 7r. If you're uncertain about that and you're not good at multiplying integers, I recommend just putting it in the calculator if you have one available in class. So negative 1 times my coefficient of r, which is 7, and I hit enter and it tells me it's negative 7. So what I like to think of is anytime I'm multiplying by negative 1, everything in the parentheses is really just going to have a sign change. In other words, 7r becomes negative 7r, and positive 9 is going to become negative 9. Now that's because we're going to take this negative 1 and we're going to multiply it to that positive 9. And once we do that in the calculator, it would tell you that it's going to be negative 9. Because a negative times a positive is always a negative. So we've gotten rid of those two items. I am going to bring down the 7 over here. And the arrow just represents I'm just sliding it down. And we haven't done anything mathematical with it yet other than move it. And before I do anything else, I want to go ahead and start combining terms over here. So let me go ahead and combine the things that I can. Now on the right side of the inequality, I see that I have a negative 9r and I have a negative 4r. I can actually put those together. So the arrow just represents that those are going to be combined. The way that I do that is I'm simply going to add them. Anytime I'm combining something, I'm adding it. So I have negative 9 plus negative 4. And you can put it in your calculator just like that. Negative 9 plus negative 4, and it gives me negative 13. So now when it comes to the r values, I have negative 13r. Notice the 10, we hadn't done nothing with it yet. I'm simply going to bring it down, plus 10. And now this looks a little bit more simplified, right? Instead of having 3 terms, we've combined 2 of them, and now we just have 2 terms, a variable and a constant. Now let's do the same thing to the one on the left. On the left, while we don't have a variable to combine with negative 7r, we do have 2 constant values, 7 and negative 9. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to take the 7 and negative 9 and put it together and combine it. So I can go ahead and put positive 7 plus negative 9, and it gives me negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write this is negative 2, and I'm going to bring down my negative 7r. Now the purpose of bringing these things down is to keep them lined up with each other, because we're about to start moving things on the other side of the inequality symbol. So I'm going to extend this line representing my inequality symbol, or you can think about it as your equal sign. And what I notice here is I have a variable on each side and a constant on each side. And remember, I said our goal is we want to get the variables on the left and the constants on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and move my constant over to the right first. So this is subtracting 2. To move it to the right, I want to do the inverse operation, which just means opposite operation. So instead of subtracting, I'm going to add it. That cancels out. I'm then going to do the same thing to the other side, because remember, we want to keep it balanced. So I have 10 plus 2 That's going to give me 12. So I've gotten rid of this constant value on the right, and all my constants have been grouped together, on the left, and all my constants have been grouped together on the right. Now I want to move this negative 13r over to the left. Since it's a negative 13r, to move that entire term, I want to do the inverse operation, which is adding 13r. That creates a 0 set on the right and gets rid of all of our variables. In other words, we have 0 for our variable, just like over here we had 0 for our constant value. And now I want to go ahead and add 13 to the other side to keep it balanced. So really I'm just going to combine the coefficients, negative 7 plus 13. And so I'm going to type that in, negative 7 plus 13, and it gives me a positive 20. Let me rephrase that. The negative sign didn't, even though I pushed it, it didn't show up. So negative 7 plus 13. And that gives me a 6, a value of 6. So it's a positive 6, so I'm going to write 6r. And we're almost done. Our final step here is we need to isolate the variable. And to isolate it, we have to divide by that coefficient of 6. Because we don't want 6 r's, we want 1 r. So I'm going to put right here, divide, to isolate. And so therefore, whatever number's in front of the variable, you're just going to divide it out. In this case it's 6, so I'll be dividing by 6. And I'll have to do the same to the right so that we keep everything balanced. 6 going to 6 one time. That simply just leaves me with r. Since I didn't divide by a negative value, I'm going to just bring my inequality symbol down. So it's going to be r is less than, and 6 are going to 12 two times. Now this one, we have our answer here. And so what I'm going to do is show you a way that we could actually have put this in a calculator to see what 2 would have been. Now keep in mind, this calculator doesn't, you have to do the work by hand to determine which way you flip the sign. Or I should say whether you flip it or you don't flip it. Because remember, anytime you divide by a negative value from a variable, you're going to have to take the sign and flip it around. Whenever you don't divide by a negative variable, in other words, we're dividing by a positive number, we get to leave it the same. Now let's say you did all this work and you weren't certain that what you had done was correct. You can actually check it with the calculator. A really simple way. And I say simple way, but you can check it by graphing. Because every time you solve one of these inequalities or you solve an equation, what you're really solving for is the point at which 2 lines intersect. And when I say 2 lines, well, this on the left is considered 1 line. And this on the right side of the inequality, or equal sign, will be considered a second line. So let me show you what I mean, in case you've never seen this done before, or nobody's ever explained it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit y equals on my calculator to go to my graph. And I'm first going to put in what's on the left side of the inequality. So I'm going to put 7, and then I'm going to put minus. Now I could put a 1 in there, but I don't need to, because the calculator understands there's always an invisible 1 there. And then I'm going to put 7, but instead of a r, I'm going to use an x, because your calculator doesn't have an r. And then I'm going to put plus 9, close parenthesis, and I'm going to go down to the next slot where it says y equals for my second equation. Now my second equation is going to be what's on the right side here. So I'm going to put negative 9x in place of negative 9r plus 10, and then minus 4r, so minus 4x. Now I've got both sides of my equation. I broke it up into 2 parts. What's on the left side is in my top equation. What's on the right side I put as my second equation. And now I'm going to simply hit graph. Now you can see it graphed a blue line, and then you can see it graphed a red line. So there are 2 lines here that are being graphed. And I could probably, I'm going to stay zoomed out right now, but if I were to zoom in, let me go ahead and put it on standard, because I'm not sure if it even show the intersection on this one. But you can see it more clearly now. You can see here's a line, here's a blue line, and there's my red line. Now the problem with being zoomed in on a standard screen is you can't see where it intersects. And in order to use this trick I'm about to show you, you got to be able to see the intersection. So I am going to go ahead and hit zoom. I'm going to go to zoom out, option 3, hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter 1 time. So I just want to zoom out enough to where I can see the intersection. Alright, and now it looks like it crosses about right here. Now I'm not sure what that value is, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the intersection. Your calculator has a feature to do that, and that'll tell you what x should be, and it should say 2 because that's what I got when I did it by hand. In other words, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit second, and then I'm going to go and hit trace. Now this pulls up some menus, right? You can either find the 0, the minimum, the maximum, or an intersection. So I'm going to go ahead and find an intersection. I'm going to click down into where it says intersect and hit enter. So notice now that I selected that I wanted to find the intersection, it actually says first curve. What you really want to do is just click to the left on the pad to move the little cursor to the left of the intersection, and then hit enter, and then click it till it goes to the right of the intersection, because what you want to do is you want to try to be on both sides of the intersection. Hit enter, and then hit enter again, and notice it gives me my intersection, and it even says intersection. It says the intersection is when x is equal to 2. So that tells me that my value of x, in other words r, should be equal to 2. Now if this was an equation, we'd have r equals 2, but because it's an inequality, I just carry down my inequality symbol. Keep in mind that this only tells you whether the numerical value that you have is correct, but it doesn't tell you which way to flip the sign. So you need to do these by hand, but you can always check this to make sure that when you did the work by hand, it came out correct. So that's just a little trick you can use to check your work, and that's it. You know what to do now.